Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Ray in Focus. Well, the fourth episode of Ray in Focus, guys. A safe space where we talk about real life, real relationships, and real emotions. Today's topic, we will be talking about something that I feel like a lot of us struggle with. I, for one, am very guilty. Very, very guilty. We will be talking about inconsistency. Let's get into it. Today's episode is about something almost everybody struggles with: inconsistency. It's not a lack of dreams, it's not a lack of potential, it is not a lack of talent. It's just inconsistency. And honestly, I feel like, or let me rephrase that. We all know that this is one of the reasons why we get stuck, you know, in most of the areas of our lives. We start, we don't finish. Um we stop, you take a pause, and before you know it, the pause is like, you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah, we start, we stop, we don't get motivated, we disappear, we come back inspired again, then we start again and we stop again, right? Take me for example with this podcast. When I started, oh my god, I was so motivated, I was excited, um and I was so sure like I would 100% be dropping 2 episodes a month every 2 weeks. But and it's not an excuse, because genuinely there was nothing happening in my life that was enough to keep me away from making these videos. I just relaxed, I was just enjoying life and I relaxed. You get what I mean? And over time, honestly, inconsistency slowly destroys our self-confidence, because every time you break a promise to yourself, you trust yourself a little less. Um, so today we will be talking about why inconsistency happens, how it affects our lives, and how to finally become a consistent person. I'm working on it myself. Please, if you know me, please hold me accountable, please, and thank you. I think one of the reasons inconsistency is so dangerous is because it doesn't look dramatic. It's not dramatic at all, guys. It's like it is very, very chill. It looks like skipping the gym today, um, praying only when life gets hard, creating content or starting a podcast and disappearing for 3 weeks or maybe 5 months, you know, starting a business and abandoning it, or promising you change and just repeating the same old habits over and over and over again. And individually these things seem very, very small, they don't seem all that big, but these are the things that shape our entire life, because repeated over time, you just wake up one day and realize, wait, what happened? If I had just stayed consistent, where would this whole thing have been? Because I asked myself that question yesterday. I was like, if I had just stayed consistent for the past 5 months, dropping 2 episodes every week, imagine how much further this podcast would have gone. But yeah, it doesn't look dramatic at all. It doesn't look dramatic at all. And like I said, repeated over time, it shapes our entire life. I saw this post on Instagram that said, um, let me read it. It says, because success is not built on intensity, it is built on consistency. You do not become successful from one amazing day. You become successful from repeated average days done well. And genuinely, I think social media has kind of confused us to think that motivation is enough. Having the idea is enough, having the dream is enough. But at the end of the day, we need to realize and understand that motivation is only temporary. It really is just temporary. You have the motivation. If you don't do anything about it, um, if you don't build a routine around it, it's just at the end of the day, like it becomes an idea, like just a dream. You get what I mean? But consistency, the opposite of inconsistency, it changes your life. It changes our lives. Um, and yeah, I am going to be holding myself very accountable from now on. And let's be very honest. There are people who are a lot less talented than you, a lot less talented than me in, like, different fields, maybe in the same field that I am or the same field that you are, that have become really successful in whatever it is that they're doing. Now, it's not because they're more talented than you and I. I already said that, right? It's just because of discipline. It's because they stayed consistent long enough to see results. They did not quit halfway. They did not get distracted. That distraction, they did not get distracted. It's all just discipline and consistency, and God, of course. And shout out to my friends. Shout out to my friends. Shout out to my friends for holding me accountable, for asking me every now and then, Rahab, what happened to your podcast? Rahab, what happened to Reinfocus? Precious, especially. Shout out to Precious. Almost every Saturday, Rahab, this is how you started your podcast, though, and you haven't dropped anything. Thank you. Shout out to my friends. I appreciate it, and I hope that, it doesn't change. Anyway, where was I? Second. A lot of people are inconsistent because they're lazy. Don't get me wrong. Laziness is part of it. Laziness is 100% part of it. But I feel like it also comes from deeper things. Number one is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment. What will my friends say? Um, Fear of, maybe not being enough. Sometimes another thing I would say is perfection. We want everything to be perfect before we start, or we start and we look at what we've done so far and it doesn't look good enough. You feel like it's not there yet, it's not perfect. You don't want to continue because it's not perfect. You want to wait until it's perfect before you continue. But at the end of the day, like, we forget that nothing is perfect. Even as children of God, we're learning every day. We make mistakes every day, and you have to keep going. You have to keep, trying. We learn on the job, even just being human beings, right? We learn on the job. And also because, when you start, like when you get into it, it becomes real. Like, when you get into it, it becomes real. It's this real thing now. And, you have to keep it alive. You have to keep going. Um, and a lot of the times it's because we're impatient. We start, we want to see results right now. And when we don't see results right now, it's like the whole thing, it feels like it's very far away. You get what I mean? But at the end of the day, you won't get there if you're not consistent. You won't get there if you're not disciplined. You will not get there if you don't keep trying, right? Okay. Now, I've learned that some people see inconsistency as a form of self protection, right? Because, now you started, now it feels real. Now, you're scared. You're worried. What if I fail? Um, what do people or what are people thinking of me, I'm not really getting the support that I thought I was going to get, or you're not seeing the results right now, and it's like, I haven't fully put myself into it, you know maybe I should just relax. You get what I mean? It becomes a situation of, if I never fully try, I never fully, like, I can never fully fail, right? But at the end of the day, if you start something and you don't see it through, that's automatic failure. You get what I mean? So you need that motivation, if you get what I mean. You need that discipline. You need that consistency. You need to see whatever it is that you've started through. Because let's say you finish and it doesn't go the way that you want. You get to look back, at the whole thing, correct yourself, look at the places you made mistakes, figure out another way to go about the whole situation. Because at the end of the day, life in itself doesn't really work that way. And honestly, discipline is way better than your feelings. You're not always going to feel inspired. You're not always going to feel confident. You're not always going to feel ready. Um, but showing up anyway, brings you closer to your goal. And I feel like we don't talk about the chaos, the emotional chaos that consistency brings. It makes you doubt yourself. It messes with your mental health. Guilt, you feel behind, you feel disappointed. You start doubting yourself. And honestly, the problem is not capability, it is just inconsistency. Imagine buying a plant, or you plant moms. You buy a plant, you water it today, you do not, like, you forget to water it for 3 weeks, and then you come back and water it again. And you start asking yourself why it's dying, Abby. That's how most of us treat our goals. And at the end of the day, we want to grow, we want a better life for ourselves, we want to do that, cute little thing, we want that nice body, but you forget to go to the gym, Abby. You go today, you don't go for 3 weeks, you go again. I'm very guilty of that. But yeah, at the end of the day, we want to grow, but growth requires repetition. Consistency builds self-respect, it builds your self-esteem, it strengthens your confidence. You begin to trust yourself again. And at the end of the day, consistency is maturity. Maturity is not just age. Maturity is doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. And at the end of the day, that requires repetition, that requires discipline, right? Um, Now let's talk practical steps to becoming a more consistent person. I hope I take this advice myself. First things first, stop relying on motivation. I'm not saying do not, like, be motivated. Stay motivated, but don't rely on it, Create practical steps. If you want to pray more, and you should pray more, by the way. But if you want to pray more, um create a routine, prayer time. If you want to work out more, schedule it. Get an accountability partner, get a workout partner if you can. You want to post more, you want to, do your podcast thing, whatever it is that you're doing, you, this girl, do it, plan for it, maybe every Saturday, you know, map out time, create time to do what you love to do, and set realistic goals. Um, don't go and set unrealistic things, man. It's not there. Don't say Rahab said. But yeah, at the end of the day, start small, and most importantly, really forgive yourself. When you make those little mistakes, when you slow down, when you stop, forgive yourself and get up, get right back to, what you wanted to do. Get back on your routine. Call your accountability partner. Just do what you need to do. Um, yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Rahab, and I will see you guys on the next episode. 2 weeks from now. I promise. I'm not lying. Bye.